Legalism, which talks about law, righteousness, and duty without grace, forgiveness, and love, is a false religion. Let's begin our Bible reading. Interlude between chapter 1 and chapter 2. Chapter 1 closes with this verse, "But he went out and began to talk freely about it and to spread the news so that Jesus could no longer openly enter their town, but was out in the country, and people came to him from every quarter." As it is widely spread out that Jesus healed a leper, he couldn't openly walk through villages anymore, but stayed at the wilderness people didn't live in. Why does it matter that the news is widely spread out? He came here to spread the good news. He was supposed to go out to proclaim it. Then he must meet people. Why did he stay outside the village? It is because the attitude of legalists has already become stubborn against him. Why? It is because Jesus didn't show respect to the law by breaking it twice already in chapter 1. First, it was the Sabbath when he healed the possessed man in the synagogue. It was prohibited to heal on the Sabbath, so he broke the law. It was a serious felony to break the law of the Sabbath, which is the fourth out of the 10 commandments. Second, he touched when he healed the leper. It is the violation against the law of purification. At that time, leprosy was considered a disease to make communities a danger, just like COVID-19, so his violations of the law was almost considered a felony. Then, did he not know that his healings could really matter in the Jewish communities? No, he knew it. Then, why did he still do it? It is because there was a significant difference between Jesus and the legalists concerning what the law of God is. As for Jesus, the 10 commandments alone is the law. But as for the legalists, all elements such as legal definitions, acts, and precedents were regarded as the law. Such difference is derived from the historical context. 600 years ago, before Jesus came, the Israelites were exiled to Babylon after the country was completely destroyed. And there they raised a serious question. Why did we fall? We are the people chosen by God. It is most unlikely that God is dead, and you have the Word of God. Afterwards, they realized, we did have the Word of God, but failed to live according to it. From now on, we must live our lives according to the Word of God. This awareness led them to record the oral traditions of the Word from mouth to mouth until it became a collection of books. Before that documentation, the written Word of God was the 10 Commandments and Deuteronomy 1 through 20 alone. Some people were selected among the Levites to write the oral traditions that were called scribes. The class of scribes were born during the exile. The first step of the document job was to complete the book of Deuteronomy by writing the rest of the chapters 21 through 28. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Joshua, and the 5 law books were written and completed. And next, histories, prophets, and poems were written, so that the exiled Jews could have the written scriptures for the very first time. But what if the original texts were the only one? It could be ruined by a fire. So they made many handwritten copies, and it was long before the development of printing technology. Scribes had to write it all one by one and hand on the scroll with parchment or papyrus. How careful they were to write in hand the Word of God. Lots of time, manpower, and a lot of expenses were needed for the document project of the written scriptures. After finishing the documentation, they needed those who could teach the written scriptures. Nothing is complete unless you put it in a final shape. So they set a rule that obliged a man to teach 10 to 15 families. He is called a Bible teacher or as a rabbi. According to Talmud, that rule has been kept so far since the exile. Think of this, they were the slaves who had to work for the conquerors. They were barely surviving day to day. All resources were in short. While labor is so hard, they still managed to survive. However, they collected tens and givings to support full-time scribes and rabbis. How odd it is. There is something you can see only when you lose. When they lost their country, they bitterly realized how precious the Word of God is. For the Jews, the exile was the worst situation as well as the best chance to make them realize the documentation and the practice of the Bible. Nevertheless, their extraordinary efforts produced a school of thought which caused Judaism to fall completely. What was it? It is legalism. What caused legalism to be born at Judaism? It caused to make legalism born at Judaism for the Jews to understand the Word of God, basically, as law only. Thus, the Bible deal with law alone? No, not at all. It deals with prophecy, wisdom, grace, forgiveness, and love. However, if the exiled Jews define the word of God as law, what happened to Judaism? No matter what good it is, if any perspective as ism, it becomes extremely dangerous. Law is good, but legalism is so bad, and furthermore, seriously harmful to human beings. Nevertheless, any religion includes legalistic elements in itself. Why? It is because human beings have a religious psychology that they feel something's peaceful. They are tamed by legalism. For example, let's think about prayer. Number 1, I pray spontaneously by myself. Number 2, I pray according to the book of prayer already made by the religious professionals. Number 3, the priest prays on my behalf. Religion gets popular according to the easiest way, 3, 2, and 1. If a religion says you no longer need know how to pray, it becomes the most popular among people. Religious psychology calls this as the desire to be fools when you commit to a religion. The Feast of Fools by Harvey Cox. So all human beings are the descendants of Cain, as all religions, Islam, Catholic, institutionalized Christianity, are the children of the Jewish legalism. The style of religion may be different, but the essence of it is basically the same. Then why is legalism so bad? Ism talks about everything. First, all ism is human thinking. Paul presumed even Christism, I belong to Christ, as false. 1 Corinthians 1:12. There can be no ism in the Word of God. Second, ism can never be the truth. It is because it manipulates human thinking made according to a certain perspective alone. Look at this picture. The shape of its shade differs according to what angle you lie it onto. One is rectangular and the other circle. Ism is something like insisting rectangle alone as true, while circle as false, and vice versa. It is a misunderstanding or false, so legalism is a false religion. How about evangelism? Is it not good? Evangelism and revivalism to go back to the Reformation to recover the spirit of the early Christianity. Then thus, evangelism still keep up such spirit until now? Any ism on earth begins with good intention but ends with bad results. It begins with God but ends with human. It begins with good but ends with evil. So the contemporary Christianity based on evangelism is very dangerous as well. Back to legalism, it began with the understanding of the divine word as law, but ended with the removal of prophecy, grace, and love. The word of God includes not only law, but also grace, not only righteousness, but also forgiveness, not only duty, but also love. However, the Jews after exile focused only on law, righteousness, and duty alone. They came to lose grace, forgiveness, and love. And it's what happened to them before Jesus came. The mission of Jesus is to recover the power of grace, forgiveness, and love. According to him, grace, forgiveness, and love is more primordial power of religion and includes law, righteousness, and duty. Legalism, which talks about law, righteousness, and duty without grace, forgiveness, and love, is a false religion. It is the enemy of humankind as well as that of God. Jesus came here to destroy the false religion on earth, so he made trouble from the very beginning of the Gospel of Mark. It's not that he was breaking the laws, but that he was actually destroying the laws. And from chapter 2, he is destroying the Jewish legalism. Thank you for watching.